Tonight, a devastating story with what we hope is a positive conclusion. All we can say is thank goodness a 6-year-old girl is now safe with what we pray will be a lifetime of better memories ahead of her. Late today, her parents and grandfather, none of whom were entitled to legal custody of her, appeared in court to face child endangerment and other charges. They'll be back in court in the coming weeks. This all came to light yesterday in a town in New York's Hudson River Valley, just a few miles from Woodstock. More from CNN's Miguel Marquez.
I'm just shocked because they seem like just regular people.
Neighbors stunned after a little girl missing for 2.5 years is found alive and well, located in what police describe as a secret hiding spot.
It was intentionally built that way. It was apparent that that location had been used on more than just that occasion.
Paislee Joann, now 6, disappeared from Cayuga Heights, New York, where she was living with her legal guardian in July of 2019. Monday night, she was found at this home in the small town of Saugerties, about 160 miles east of Cayuga Heights, where her biological parents, Kimberly Cooper Shultis and Kirk Shultis Jr., live. Police say the couple does not have legal custody of Paislee and that officers have been to the same home roughly a dozen times since she was reported missing, but were never allowed in the basement or bedroom areas.
The majority of the time, the interaction between the homeowners and the police was adversarial and not on our part. They were upset. They accused us of harassing them.
Then Monday, acting on a tip, police got a search warrant and went to the house. That's when they say an officer noticed something weird about the staircase.
He just said there was something, he couldn't put his finger on it, but there was something about the staircase that bothered him. And he uses a flashlight to look between the crack of one of the stairs, and he sees actually where the stair meets the riser, and he sees what he believes to be a blanket. And as they're removing the steps off the staircase, they see a set of feet, little feet. They discovered that it was Paislee.
Police say they also found Kimberly Cooper Shultis hiding inside this wet, dark, and cramped secret area under a stairwell.
Just feel sick to my stomach.
Under a staircase.
Dumbfounded because my granddaughter's been over there playing and everything, and I just figured they were just normal people.
The couple were arrested and charged with her disappearance. So was Paislee's grandfather, Kirk Shultis Sr. Police believe Paislee had been living there since she disappeared.
Miguel Marquez joins us now. Miguel, did police say anything about the condition of the little girl when she was rescued?
Yeah, she was in pretty good shape. She came out quiet at first and then got upset. But look, there were a lot of police in the house. They were heavily armed. They were heavily clad with gear, so that may have been a concern. But they did check her out. They say that the good bit here is that there was no sign of abuse. Tonight, she is with her legal guardian and her older sister. The police also say, look, for the last 2 years, she hasn't been able to go to school. She hasn't been able to see a doctor. So it is not clear how much long-term trauma she may have suffered. John?
I hope she gets the help she needs. Miguel Marquez, thank you so much. Perspective now from Elizabeth Smart, who was abducted at age 14 and held captive for 9 months. She's now an advocate for child safety and abduction survivors. Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining us tonight. So the circumstances of what happened with you are obviously so different to what happened to the little girl here in New York, but can you share with us what she might be going through right now, especially as she tries to, re-enter the outside world?
I can only imagine she is going through so much confusion, and I would feel instability as well. I mean, going from the situation she was in to the situation that she hopefully now is in, I mean, I imagine would be vastly different. And then going forward, of course, this is happening at such an early age in her life. I'm very hopeful that she will have, every chance for happiness and a wonderful life in the future. But still going forward can be very daunting. Being recognized for something that you had no control over, for something that you wouldn't have picked, you wouldn't have chosen, for something that you wouldn't want to be recognized for. I mean, that could be very difficult, especially as she enters school and as she begins to get older. There are many things that I can imagine for her would be uncomfortable. I am not intimately aware of all the details of her case. I mean, I was not a part of the investigation, but other children who maybe only have part of the story or don't understand everything oftentimes can say things and not meaning to be cruel or mean, but it can be very hurtful being on the receiving ends of those kinds of remarks.
So the local police chief said the officers that visited the house, or that officers did visit the house almost a dozen times over 2 years, and they didn't see her on any of those visits. Now, in your situation, you were approached by a police officer while you were in captivity and not rescued in that moment. So what was that like? Is it even possible to explain what that's like?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about and going back and thinking about my own experience and really trying to analyze how I felt. And for me, when I think back to the few times that we were approached by individuals or by police officers, it almost went to cement in my mind that my captors were invincible, that they could get away with anything. And for this little girl, I mean, she's was even much younger than I was then when I was kidnapped. And I mean, to see or to understand what was going on, I mean, that would be very scary. I mean, that would feel like I'm never getting out of here. I will always be a captive. I'll always have to hide. I would imagine that would lead to thoughts of self-doubt. I mean, why am I being hidden? What did I do wrong? Why don't people like me? It might also lead to thoughts of, well, why can't the police find me? They can't find me. Will they ever find me? Will they ever rescue me? Do I have something to be embarrassed or ashamed of? Did I do something wrong?
It's just horrible even to think of that. Elizabeth, in your book, you talk about how your captors, they gave you a fake backstory to tell police, essentially to lie to them. And when this girl was found, the officers said she seemed mistrustful of them. You've done so much work with so many survivors. Is that a common goal for kidnappers?
You do everything you have to survive. And if that's, lying to the police, because she had 2 years to essentially be groomed into believing that maybe the police were bad or that they weren't capable of finding her. That's a long time, and that's a lot of fear to live with. So I would understand completely why she wouldn't be trustful. And certainly that is a common theme that I've met among other survivors and people who have experienced, I mean, not even just, sexual abuse, but domestic abuse, really any victim of abuse. I feel like it is a common trait to be mistrustful of others.
So for the people in her life who were searching for her for 2 years, it's such a long time in a child's life. How important is hope? In your situation, your family never lost hope.
It's huge. I think that's the difference between life and death. I mean, that's the difference between, being able to move forward and have a happy life or being caught and reliving in the past. I think hope makes all the difference in the world. And y- I I have hope for this young girl. I mean, she is very young, and it sounds like she does have a support network around her, and she, is with her older sister now, and she recognized her and she knew who she was. And so I have a lot of hope actually that she will be able to move forward and she will be able to have a happy life.
Elizabeth Smart, you've really given us important perspective tonight, and you've helped so many people over the years. I really appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.